officially wife is sweeping up really quick before we put the final pieces of drywall up. So we still have this whole room to do, of course, but this is the only insulation exposed wall in the house. So everything else is just ICF foam. So once we get these in place, the building is be a lot more airtight. We finished the drywall in these rooms last week. Morgan's been going through and setting screws to the correct depth. She's getting better. So that's about right, where you want it. That's a little deep. You want it where it just is not proud of the surface anymore, but isn't tearing the drywall paper. So maybe I can find an example of a really good one. It's all kind of deep. But then in this room, this is my first attempt at taping, and it actually went pretty smooth. It's we got the Mud Buddy. It's from that Buddy Tools company that makes all the green plastic tools, and I mean, for me, doing it the first time, it's really the way to go because it guarantees that you get mud under your tape, and that is like the big thing you can mess up is if you have a dry spot anywhere under the tape. It'll look good at this taping stage, but when you go to coat it, skim coat it with top coat, this drywall tape will blister up and it's unfixable. You have to cut out a piece and basically retape and do that part over again. So with the Mud Buddy, it guarantees that I can't make that mistake, or at least if I pull out a piece of tape from the Mud Buddy and it doesn't have mud on it, I'll see it before I put it on the wall. So I think I'm going to be safe from that. I've been going back and coating screws as I do taping. We need to come up with some sort of system where we write like S on the wall or S dash for like first coat, second coat, third coat screws, and then like what stage we're at on the taping. Like this is, again, just practice, so I didn't do that much, but this has been, I put the corner bead on and then I went and did the first coat, and that just takes out the gap that they leave for mud. So when you install corner bead, there's a gap that you can just barely see light through, and that's to fill with mud so you can hide the tape. So if I go over to this side, this one has been mudded flat-ish. It looks like it shrunk a little bit. So on the second coat, that'll get fixed. This is not my mudding knife. Absolutely do not buy cheap tools. The good tools are not that expensive, and the cheap ones are really gonna make things a pain. These are the tools that we've been using. So one thing I definitely recommend is when you're buying a knife, this one is turned into our garbage knife, make sure it's stainless steel, because if you get a steel one, it just rusts up like this, and so much of the mudding process relies on that edge being perfectly straight with the surface, so there's no gaps, because otherwise you end up with gaps in your mud, and so that really needs to be a straight surface. And as soon as this one rusts, it's not. So we've actually been using this one a lot for scraping. This one was like $8 or $9, so like very inexpensive. The one that I like the most is this style. This is a stainless steel knife with, it's got absolutely no ridges on it. They weld everything and grind everything smooth so that it cleans really nice. It's really easy to clean the mud off of it. The thing that is annoying about these is the sticker. I haven't used Goo Gone or anything, but they make stickers that like leave behind that residue, which is just dumb because then your mud immediately sticks to it. Or when you're trying to scrape your mud off into the pan, it gets caught on this, and it's just not a nice experience. But they make a 4-inch, a 6-inch, and I think a bigger one. And I have the 4-inch and the 6-inch, and I love these. There's the same applies for mud pans. Make sure it's a stainless steel one so it doesn't rust on you. This is a shorter one that we bought first because this other one wasn't available. But we went back and bought this one, and the 14-inch pan is a big upgrade because when you're putting a full-size like top coat knife in there, it fits with room to spare. And then this grip is actually really nice too. I mean, it's just like some skateboard tape or whatever, but I mean, you might think it's dumb to need a grip on a steel pan, you can grab it. But when this thing is like full of like 10 pounds of mud and you're holding it, you know, next to your head for an hour and a half, it's nice to not have to really grip the thing and squeeze it to hold it in place. It definitely reduces the wear on your hands. The other tool, this is the tool that we bought on the recommendation of the Vancouver Carpenter channel. We've been really following a lot of his tutorials, and I think he's gotten us past a lot of the beginner mistakes on drywall so far. But this is a Marshalltown trowel. It is very flat. Like compared to some of my other trowels, it's weird how it like sticks to surfaces because it's so flat and can trap air in there. They also grind the edge. You see that grind mark on the edge there, and that's just so that like when you're troweling or running it flat along the surface, that corners don't catch, which is kind of a big deal. It's also like just the right amount of flexible because you have to kind of press and bend to get what he calls a feathered edge. The other thing I like about it is this bar here in the center. It's not as nice as the stainless steel trowels I have, but it's really easy to run a knife along that and just like a taping knife and just clean off the drywall mud. So I'm still getting used to the handle. The grind could be better. It's not super nice to the touch, it's a little rough, but yeah, hopefully this will give me the best possible chance I have. Morgan cleans her tools with just she actually gets a grouting sponge because it's got this aggressive abrasive side on one side and then a soft side on the other side, and it holds a bunch of water. So it's really easy to get the mud off your tools and stuff. One thing that is worth getting if you're gonna be doing a project of this size, maybe not for right now, but is we were using this stubby ladder for a long time. It's like I think a 4 foot, and that's really handy because it's easy to drag around rooms and not bang doors and get it through openings and stuff. But even better are these, like, it's literally a 12-inch step stool ladder. I think it's 44 inches long, so almost 4 foot. And we actually bought 2 of them so we can stack them together and do like a whole 8-foot seam in a ceiling. But I mean, it's not very high, so it's very stable, which is nice. Not wibbly wobbly, but it's just high enough that you can reach the top of a wall to tape a ceiling or put in drywall screws or whatever. It's like just the right height, and it's aluminum. And this handle in the center is kind of a big deal because you can pick the thing up with one hand and it's balanced, so you don't need 2 hands to move it around. But I think these were like 50 or 80 bucks a piece, but yeah, definitely worth it. Yeah, so last look at the unfinished wall. We had a thermal camera out here yesterday, and it's actually insane how much heat is coming in through that crack between the insulation and the top plate. Like, that is the hottest part of the room by far in this whole house. So like all this wall area, all these walls are the same temperature as the inside, but those those crevices along the top there are, I think, where a good majority of the heat from our house is coming in. We experienced that with the dormers too, and I was putting these in the winter when I was putting the insulation in there. I used polyiso foam, and they say heat rises, but man, it's really true. Like, when I'd go to put this very last little corner piece in, I could feel the air rushing around the piece, like getting vacuumed out into the attic because the heat was rising up into the dormer and then, pushing itself out those little gaps. So it's just like, even a square inch, I can't imagine how much heat you're losing through a square inch of open area. It's crazy important to get things air sealed, especially when you have, such a high ceiling like this, where there's like a lot of height for the air to stratify. Even when we had the burner on, you could feel it'd be 40 degrees in here, or 30 degrees, we'd be freezing ourselves, and it'd be like 85 degrees up in there. So you'd be working up there and sweating, and the person on the ground would be shivering in their thickest work coat. We also went ahead and taped this room. Yeah, it didn't go so well, not as well as the other one. I wasn't paying as close of attention. I was trying to do things faster, get more tape on the wall before I went back and scraped it out with a knife. And so it didn't come out as smooth. I still got mud behind everything, so still think I'm okay. These crumblies, don't sand them, just take your drywall knife and just chip them off. They just chip off perfect, and you don't waste time sanding because this is getting a coat of mud anyway. Yeah, with drywalling, especially, maybe it's just me DIYing it, but it's really important that the whole house is ready for me to do one step. So like every screw has to be set so I can come back and do pre-fill on the whole house. And then every bit of pre-fill needs to be done so I can come back and do the, chest level flat joint on the whole house. And then every butt joint has to be ready so that I can come back and do all the 4-foot butt joints on the whole house, because like I kind of need to set up for it. I need to get efficient at pulling a 4-foot piece and sticking it on the wall. And if you're switching between pre-fill, filling screws, fixing screws, doing butt joints, doing flat joints, you never get the rhythm and you never get up to speed with doing any one of them. So I've really learned to make sure you're 100% prepped and then do everything of one kind all at once. And you can see I didn't even follow that rule here because I neither fully pre-filled this one nor came back and taped the butt joint like I did the other ones, but it actually ran out of pre-fill. So this is our worst hanging in the whole house. This wasn't even in the beginning of the job. I think we were just sick of hanging drywall, and we kind of rushed, and it was a closet, so we figured out we'll just use up our scraps and stuff. It even broke one of the cardinal rules, which is, you know, try and do this whole doorway in one piece. But it's extremely hard actually to get a long piece of drywall into a tight space like this. In a closet, there's not enough room to maneuver around, and it'll jam, and these closets are really like the least square thing in the whole house. And it's a whole bunch of trigonometry, but you'll realize that there's almost no way to fit a back piece into that opening. Like, no matter which angle you put it at, it's just gonna jam in that doorway before you get a piece back there. So that's why both those pieces in the back actually have a butt joint in them. If I was smart, I would have pulled those pieces in before I drywalled this, but you know, I'm not a pro, so I learned that after the fact. Here's an example of me starting to fix an over-zipped junction box. It's actually really not that bad. You just kind of hit it with pre-fill. Keep sanding, keep adding pre-fill, and eventually you'll be able to get it flat. This pre-fill stuff doesn't crack, and it actually repairs really easy. We were pretty worried about our roto-zip skills. We got better, but it's turning out to not be that big of an issue. This is one thing pending wife let me get away with. I don't know why, but I love this. It's a 10-pound fire extinguisher cabinet, because I think everyone should really have quick access to a fire extinguisher in their house. I know my parents personally don't. Their fire extinguisher is like 25 years old. Doesn't work, but I'm an engineer. I've started into fires in my life, and it's like you have 90 seconds between grabbing a fire extinguisher and putting out the fire, or having a total loss structural fire. So you can't really mess around. It can't be hidden in a corner. It can't be in a garage. It can't be. You have to know that it works, because when you need it, you have to be able to get to it in under a minute, or there's no point. You're going to lose the whole structure. So we actually have another one hidden back here. We have it framed out here for another fire extinguisher cabinet here. Fixed one of the dormers that I was a little frustrated with. I don't really know what happened. I don't think the trusses were plumb, and I didn't account for that. I didn't shim them to get them perfectly straight, but one of the dormer walls was fine, but the other one was actually horrible, and I didn't even realize how bad it was until I started shimming it out, trying to get just get the wall flat. So it's plumb towards the top. It really dived in that way towards the bottom. So I stuffed some shims up there as best I could, got it as straight as I could. I think it's straighter than it looks, because that drywall wobbles, that edge of the drywall. But the bottom now appears to be straight when I stick my 6-foot level on it. And it appears to be plumb. So it appears to be like collinear with the top of the sheet. So I'm gonna try that, and I know wife will be happy. This is her office. So I'm gonna stuff some pre-fill in there, and maybe it won't look so ridiculous.
It's a bad spot.
Aw, they're cute.
There we go. Watch. That's inside.
Oh.
I don't know if they have eggs yet. I don't think so. They feel pretty chill. Got our last load of drywall behind us. A couple super wide sheets for the garage. Picked up the trailer again, $37. It's cheaper than owning a trailer with registration and insurance and all that.